Hello everybody, welcome back to another weekly market overview for F45 trading. We're looking at the week of April 15th to the 19th. I'll discuss a couple of major Forex pairs and crude oil, and that's about all I've got for you this week. Just a handful of FX that I see on the radar. If I see anything else that pops up that is of interest, I will do a special release again throughout the week, and of course our members will get that live as it happens, which you can check us out at f45trading.com. Several options there. And we're going to start out this week going on the news feed. Sunday's pretty much about all done, depending on where you're at in the world at the time of this recording. There's a couple hours left. Going into Monday, we have pardon me. Going into Monday, we have an FOMC speaker, 3 FOM speakers, throughout the day. First one starting at 8:30 a.m. New York time. The last two later in the day. And then we have a Canadian Bank of Canada Business Outlook Survey. And we have, at the end of the day, Australian Monetary Policy Meeting Minutes. This one here is probably going to swing the Australian dollar pretty decent, so just be aware of that one. We go into Tuesday with pound sterling news, average earnings index, and a couple medium impact news events for euro and Canadian dollar. And then going into Wednesday, we have a whole bunch of pound news to start the day off. Early London Open, and then going at 4:30 a.m. And then we have OPEC meetings pretty much all day. So if you're a crude oil trader, you'll probably notice a few things fluctuating in that market. And then at 8:30 a.m. we have trade balance and CPI for the Canadian dollar, and a whole bunch of medium impact news events. So I would imagine Wednesday is going to be fairly volatile for the Canadian dollar. We'll probably see it moving. And then later in the morning we have Governor Carney speaking for the pound, and finishing the day up with FOMC Bullard speaking. More Australian dollar news. We have unemployment rate and employment change. So the Australian dollar is probably going to move quite a bit this week as well. And then going into Thursday, we have a whole bunch of euro news on Friday. Euro is definitely going to be a mover on Friday. A lot of high impact news events, French flash services, German flash manufacturing, and then some retail sales for the pound. And then again, Friday we have more Canadian dollar news. So we should see some fairly good market fluctuation this week. Again, it's all going to sort of start off with the Australian dollar, and then middle of the week we'll have some movement on the pound, and then movement in the Canadian dollar, finishing up with euro on Thursday, and then Friday. Friday I should note we do have a big banking holiday for the euro and the pound. So please keep that in mind. And then obviously, and these are all Easter Friday holidays, so just keep that in mind. All your trading should be wrapped up hopefully by, I'd say, Wednesday, sort of Thursday at the latest. Sorry folks, my phone is going off. Let me just silence this. Very unprofessional, my apologies. And so you can finish up your week nice and early, hopefully, and have a nice long weekend like the rest of us. So we'll jump into the charts here real quick, and let's see what's afoot. So we've got the US dollar. We obviously had a bit of a start of a break out of this consolidation area in here. You can see prices just consolidating, right in here, sort of refusing to break. And finally, just as of last week, it kind of looks like we may start to see price fall out of there. Last Friday, we had a big dip and then a rejection thus far. And it looks like Sunday's candle going into Monday here, we could see a continuation on that one. I'd like to see them come down and hit 96.30 and even lower. If we could get underneath this candle right here, I'd like to see that and have them come and trade down to the low 96s. But I think if there is any resistance or support, to the lower side, right around 96.30 to maybe even 96.20, could see some sensitivity, and we could see a bounce if we do decide to go higher. As you can see last week, this was last week's trading. The week previous we set that new high, and at the end of the week we failed to get higher. A failure swing on that swing high right there. And then last week's trading was pretty much straight sideways with a brief pop in here where they just ran that high right there. And then price now falling off. So as I say, I think there's a good chance we're going to run this lower, at least at the first start of the week. Who knows where we're going to end up on the end of the week. I would like to see them come down, and I'd like to start to see them get lower than 96s and maybe even into the 95s. I don't know if we're going to see that this week. I'm going to leave it on the table, but if it is going to happen, price will have to convincingly break below, obviously, this area in here, okay? And then I want to see it power through this consolidation level and get down to this red line here. So that would be the target if we're going to see continued bearishness on the US dollar. If, however, price comes down in here and shows some hesitation and consolidates or goes down, wicks into it, and the daily candle closes higher without wanting to close down in this area, then there's a very good chance that this could reverse and start to come back up in here again. We won't know, obviously, until as the week progresses, but I am thinking that we're going to start out the week lower, and then come Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll see if the market wants to bottom out and do a reversal, or if it will continue down. So I won't be able to update you on that one unless you are a member. So if you're watching this for free on my YouTube channel, then obviously you'll know next week, or you'll know by the end of the week. And if you watch my review video next week, I'll have a better idea. Hopefully we're out of this consolidation area, obviously. And hopefully, I'd like to see, we are bearish until the end of this month, so I want to see that continue. We still got another couple weeks left here, it being only the 14th of April at the time of this recording. We still have another 2 weeks where the price could continue to fall south, and who knows, maybe we'll make a run for this low here. So we'll see what happens. If we see a move any higher than this line right here, we'll call it 96.70 on the high side. Then there's a very good chance that price will probably run higher in here. So that's my line in the sand. Everything lower than that, I'm going to be bearish. Anything higher than that, I'll be bullish. That's really as easy as I'm trying to make it here. So going into the EurUsd, we've got bullishness in the EurUsd, as you can see here from what this green area represents, up until this red line here, where seasonally speaking, it starts to turn bearish. So we'll keep looking for longs on the euro. I don't see any reason yet to give up on that. My line in the sand on euro is actually right here, 112.60. Don't want to see price go any lower than that. As long as we stay higher, I think there's a good chance we could run this high out here. Whoops, I meant to say this high here. We could run that out, so I'll put it in here. I don't know how bullish of a week we're going to have, but I'll put that up there as an overall general target. That would be one big week. I think it would probably take a few weeks to obviously trade up to there, but that's that 144.45 level, which is the previous high. Okay, so again, probably not going to get up there this week. I mean, it's only at 113.10, so I mean, honestly, that's only 125 pips. We could be up there. There is a chance we could be up there by the end of the week. If we get a good run on this guy here, it would probably happen with all that news on the Thursday event that could be leading up to something like that. If we drill down to a lower time frame, we can see we had a great bullish start to the week. And I'm watching price up in here. I'd actually like to see them come down and just sweep these lows right here. If you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candle lows right here that all sort of coincide. I'd like to have them come off of the current level. I don't really want to see them go too much higher. Sink this down into Monday's trading, and then there's a bit of a gap between this candle and that candle. I'd like to see them close that gap somewhere in here, gather some support, and then make a push higher. Ideally, I don't want them to come all the way back down to here. I'd like them to maintain this momentum. You can see we are on a bit of an interim weekly bullishness from last week. Hopefully this week will continue. I do want to see them come back down, sort of retouch off of this trend line here, basically gather up some positions, and then I want to see them start making a big push higher. So that's what I'm looking for on the, pardon me, on the euro for this week, continued bullishness. But again, if we see the US dollar starting to come down here and failing to get lower, the chances of this getting too high and breaking out aren't necessarily very optimal. We could, however, see it run up if the US dollar does slam down into these lows in here, and if it decides to reject, we could see a bit of a rejection up here and then price to come down again. Again, we'll just sort of have to wait and see how the week pans out, but so far, I do like what I'm seeing. I like to see, like I say, price come down in here once, tag off of that, and then start to run higher. Going into the cable, so what I was looking for last week, and I'm sure you probably would have saw this from my previous Sunday's recording, I said that price was making some nice highs in here, and actually, my apologies, it wouldn't have been last week's recording because my members would have got it. And all of our members watching this, you saw me talk about this, how price was coming here, making all these equal highs, and I was expecting them to come up, raid this, and reject. It's exactly what we saw. We didn't, however, get as high as what I would have liked to. Price just sort of poked its head right above this red line right here. I was looking for 113.50. We only got up to 113.20, and then price declined pretty significantly. I'm sorry, 131.30 it got up to, and then price rejected about 70 pips. So unfortunately, I didn't get a trade off. Hopefully, some of you did when price got up there. And we're making another push up into here as well. So it's price again, just sort of bouncing off of this trend line here. But I think what we're going to see, if they do want to run up here, I would imagine there would be some resistance at this level up here at 131.50. So I'm going to be watching that level, and we could potentially see price run off. And that's when I want to see this come down and sweep into this low right here. That's what I'm really looking for. Price fall down. I've been talking about this level for a while. I want to see it reject here and start to run higher. Ultimately, I'd like to see all of this run higher. But we could see another push higher on cable before it does go lower. So just watch out for that. We'll probably see that this week. Again, there is some news. The major news events were mainly last week for the cable. There are a couple this week, nothing too serious, but we should see a continuation higher to the upside. And we may come back down and rebalance. We kind of had price open up. No real gap or anything like that. This is all fairly well balanced price action in here, so I wouldn't be expecting a deep retracement on this guy. I would imagine they'll probably just push this thing up here or run this high, and then hopefully it'll reject, and then we could see a lower price swing. That's what I'm thinking on the cable. Anything is possible because it is Brexit. Still in the middle of that whole fiasco, so just watch out on this pair right here. And just keep in mind, it is trading straight sideways, really. So it's not an optimal trade any way you look at it, so be careful with cable. Euro GBP, I believe we could see a continuation higher. We had a nice rejection. Price has come down here once, twice, 3 times rejected each time. Sorry, excuse me, 4 times rejected. And I think we're going to reject one more time. We could come down, rebuild balance a little bit lower. And I'll just maybe move this candle down. We could come down to the 0.8555 level one more time, but I would expect price to run higher from there. And we do have this little blue line up here. I'll put a price tag on that. I think there's a chance they could reach up for for that level there on Euro GBP. If we do get that push higher on Euro GBP, it should drag the Euro USD up with it. So that's what I'd be watching for on Euro GBP to pull the Euro USD up to this level and again higher. So, and then if that's the case, then again the pound dollar will probably just sort of stagnate sideways. It could run higher up here, it could run lower, but I don't necessarily know we'll be making significant highs or lows on it if the euro is going to be flexed this week. So watch out for that. That's sort of just an early week prediction as I see it, and that is obviously subject to change as the week opens up, but for now that's sort of what the cards are telling me here. I didn't want to talk a whole bunch about anything else other than the UsCad. So the UsCad has been consolidating quite heavily. We had a big run up here initially, and so far prices really failed to go anywhere. It's just sort of sitting sideways. We could see this continue for a long time. However, I did want to just kind of point this out. If we do see a push lower in the US dollar, it should bring the Canadian dollar with it, and this should move lower. However, you see how they've come up in here and created an obvious one-sided price action and 1, 2, 3 equal highs. I believe what we will see is them run these highs quickly and fall off, and I would probably assume that they're going to come up to about 133.50, somewhere in and around there, and probably reject, and we'll probably see this run lower. If we see price go any higher up into this consolidation area, then the idea of this going lower is going to be probably mute for the next little while. But this was just something that sort of jumped off me in the charts, because again, it's sideways price trading, but there is a small area right underneath this low here that I like to see them come down for and sweep under, and I think this could be a good setup for it. If they come up and reject in here and then drop lower, we could see that swing lower. Alrighty, that's about everything. Australian dollar, again, there's going to be some monetary policy news on Australian dollar, so watch out for that. I'll drag some lines across here, but I'll let you do your own analysis on Australian dollar if you trade it. I'm not going to be focused on it too much this week because it's not real sexy Australian dollar trading yet. As you can see, price is really just sort of working sideways. Similar to the UsCad, we had a bit of a breakout right here last week. Price one straight bar up, one straight bar down, the next bar straight bar up. So, I mean, if that's going to continue, then the next few candles should be down, and then maybe back up again. But it's kind of, like I say, kind of sideways trading, so there's really nothing in here that interests me too much right now. Okay, crude oil, I think we're going to see a push higher on crude oil. But just keep in mind, we had a good chance last week to get higher, and we just consolidated, so they could drop it lower. They came down, just dropped down into the small consolidation area right here and rejected, but had a failure swing late in the week last week to rally above those highs, and we saw price decline to finish off the week. Really, on the weekly, if you look at this, it was just about a doji on the weekly. That was the weekly candle last week, so you can kind of see that there. Not necessarily a doji, but it failed to get much higher than that area in there. And so anyway, going forward this week, I'm not super bullish on this. Again, I gave you my reasons, but I think that there is a possibility we could run higher. If we fail to get higher than this block of price action right here, and I'll put this label on it right here. So if we fail to get higher than 64.15 and price comes up there and it's just sort of sitting there doing nothing, then look out below, because I think this thing could be in for a bit of a drop this week. OPEC meetings are on Wednesday, so just be aware of that. I believe they're going to stay firm with their production cuts. Anything's possible with crude oil, but you know, Trump is saying one thing, OPEC is saying another. And ultimately, crude oil is priced in Australian U.S. dollars, so he may win that battle, and he is calling for lower prices. And so, who knows? If we do see them drop price, we could come all the way back down to this area down here. So just watch for that. Be reticent, and make sure you're nimble with your trades. Obviously, you got to know what you're doing. And so far, like I say, the past week was a pretty much do nothing week. Except for this one day right down here, which was last Thursday, where price came and slammed in. You could have gone off on a long there. That would have been the only high probability trade, but that's really about it. So we'll see what happens when price gets up to 64.15, and if it gets through that, then we'll see what happens at this little area right there. And if it gets higher than that, well, then they could push this thing one more leg higher, maybe potentially, possibly up to the 65.45 level. So. Okay, that's all I've got on the radar screen. So I told you this one was going to be short and sweet. So hopefully you guys have a great week of trading. Keep in mind the bank holidays at the end of the week. Get all your trading in from Monday to Thursday. Don't trade Friday. It's going to be a boring day watching paint dry. Not a lot happening. And again, a bank holiday for some major pairs in there. So I hope you guys, like I say, have a great week. And we will, if you are a member, catch up to you in the charts first thing tomorrow morning. And if you are just checking this out on the YouTube channel for free, you can sign up at f45trading.com to get a lot more detailed insight and much more. So go check out our website and see all the fun stuff there. And one last thing, guys, if you like this video and you got some value out of it, just go ahead and hit the bottom right hand corner here on my logo and hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up, and maybe even leave a comment or two if you'd like, if you got some value out of this. Thank you very much. We'll catch up to you next week.